Solomon Northup is an expert player on the violin.
Kidnapped, sold into slavery. I was a free man. I'm not a slave.
Steve McQueen's wife was a historian. He was trying to tell a story of this narrative, you know, of somebody who was freed and kidnapped and taken to the South. And he was working with John Ridley, and Bianca, his wife, basically said, well, why don't you look at real historical narratives? And he was like, well, of course, that's what I should do. And then she went and did some research on it and found the book.
I survive. I will not fall into despair. I will offer up my talents to Master Ford. I will keep myself hardy till freedom is opportune.
I was looking at it initially and reading the book initially with the thought that it was a story about a man who was trying to regain his freedom. Through reading the book, I realized and recognized that actually that isn't what the story was for me. The story was about a man trying to maintain his sanity, and it really opened up the whole institution of slavery in a completely different way, and unique and very enlightening and revealing. I've certainly never seen a film from inside this experience before, inside the slave experience, and I wasn't even sure that I'd ever see that.
I think after some of the violence settles, or the brutality, taking away even the issue of race, it's also, to me, about somebody who's trying to maintain their humanity and what it's like when people lose their humanity. And, you know, I think that that's rather timeless. You close the last page of the script, and your first impulse as a human being is certainly you want to help Solomon. You don't want to be one of the guys who hurts him on his journey. But ultimately, whether you're playing a good or bad person, hopefully it's a story that you want to tell. When you play a part like this, it's not necessarily what I go home and daydream about doing, you know, as an actor, but working with these people is something that I would daydream about doing.
People come up to you and thank you on the street, or?
Not me.
Not you.
If there's something wrong, it's wrong with the instruction.
Black bastard.
Every member of the cast, every member of the crew, I mean, we were like a family, and you know, we were all intensely attempting to tell this specific story. So the trust, in a way, was a given. There wasn't a kind of conversation to be had about it, in a way. We were just going to try and leave it all on the floor.
You know, the issue of trust, what you said, is so important, and I think it starts with the director, usually, I find, and so with Steve, and trusting the film that we're going to make, and then we all kind of trust each other, and I think there was enough of a sense of what we were all getting ourselves into, where everybody showed up prepared and hungry.
Yeah, I mean, it was hot, and the first day of shooting was 108 degrees, and with the really high humidity. What was good about that, in a way, was that you're forced to forget everything because you're just trying to survive the temperature. It affected the entire mood of the piece, I think.
It was unsettlingly beautiful, meaning to think that this horror happens in such a beautiful place, and beautiful places all over the world. Is a very strange juxtaposition and feeling when you get there to these locations and to the set. I suppose the first thing you learn is sort of my ignorance on the subject matter, what Solomon went through. Once you read firsthand accounts, you don't know. I was surprised at that feeling, because I thought, you know, it was a period that I knew enough about.
It's such an important part of history, of our collective history. You have to tell the story. Having said that, I think Steve McQueen has done an exceptional job with not making it a kind of relentlessly brutal story. There's actually, I feel, a very well-paced use of violence. But a lot of that actually happens within you, you know what I mean? It's actually the mark of a very skillful filmmaker, that you can feel that there's more happening, that you're seeing more than you're actually seeing. 95% of the cast and crew were all Americans, you know. But it also felt correct that there was an international element to this story, because ultimately it's a story about human respect.
I had a friend text me the other day and said that his 11th grade U.S. history class was going to see the film, and in a weird way that felt like the biggest accomplishment thus far. I had the good fortune to meet a lot of Solomon Northup's descendants recently. They're all
different races. They represent the United States. And they were very moved and proud of the film. And I guess that's all I can ask for. It was an extraordinary journey. From the moment that I encountered Solomon Northup and his book, everything was changed, everything was different. I think this is a very different kind of film because it's so directly and deeply related to the interior, to the slave experience, from a person who went through that experience with grace and humility and poetry. You know, in Solomon Northup's autobiography, present this kind of gift, in my opinion, to the modern world.